Welcome, Rotarian guests, to the Rochester Rotary April 20th meeting. My name is Ron Lichtel. I serve as your club president. Would you please
Linda,
stand
it
and
is
join
on
me
the
in the Pledge of
Facebook page
Allegiance?
or on the club page.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Please join me in the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. Is it the truth? The fair to all concerned? Will good friendships will be beneficial to all concerned? Linda Eastman here.
I'm here and I'm ready to do the invocation. Can everybody
ahead,
hear
Linda.
me? Okay, please join me in prayer. Gracious God, we thank you for the beautiful creation and for us to enjoy springtime, the time of rebirth, time flowers come up, leaves back on the trees. We wait so long for it. We thank you again for it. Even if it's predicted snow, it's still great to be alive. Thank you for that. We also thank you for a wonderful community that we all love and enjoy, and the peace that we enjoy too, living in that community. Please, this week, make us aware of the needs of our neighbors and let us take advantage of any opportunity there is to help them. Bless our friendships, old and new, and please care for those who are ill or incapacitated. Comfort them and restore them to health. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Linda. Mr. Jeff Whitby.
Yeah, we don't have any guests today, so tell the people you know that this is the greatest club on earth and bring them here.
Jeff just said there's no new people here today. 15th sign-on was Mary Lee. We got any happy bucks today? Oh, here we go. I don't want to hear anything about Ohio.
Actually, my happy bug is I have a birthday coming up. And for you golfers, it's, you might know when I say it's a Stoneman golf or Stoneman birthday. But the real happy bug is that my two sons and my son-in-law are taking me on a mystery golf tournament someplace. Not tournament. For 4 days. There you are. Sorry. For 4 days. And so next week I'll report to where it is, but it's supposed to be something pretty exciting.
Nice. Awesome. Any other happy bucks? Mary Lee has one. Wait, hold on, Mary Lee.
No.
Here you go.
This is for the sidewalk sale. The first $5. Excuse me. We sold the bike, whatever.
Oh, that's right.
Anyway, here's another $5.
All right.
That's all. Talk to you later about the sale.
We're going to have Mary Lee talk later about the upcoming sale over at the Rochester Rotary Park. Have any happy bucks online?
This is National Volunteer Week. And so I'm happy for all volunteers, especially our Rotary volunteers. Thank you for everything you do to make our community such a great place and our world a better place to be.
Thank you, Kathy.
Hey, Ron, Linda asked if I was here.
Rachel is here.
Yay!
Remember birthdays. Brian Barnett, April 22nd. I wonder how old he is. Rodney Hobart, April 22nd. And Phil Lohman, April 24th. Let's sing happy birthday to these guys. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Rotarians. Happy birthday to you. $5, please. Yeah, make sure. Back Ohio, he should pay 10. Club anniversaries, Toco, 10 years. Dale Hetrick, 3 years. Rodney Hobart, 10 years. Club announcements. For those of you who weren't there, we had a really good day Saturday. Park cleanup. We even had someone there pulling teeth. Ethan, any update on the Rotary golf outing? Very soon, okay. The Rotary Park garage sale. Mary Lee, you want to talk a little bit about that? I'll come to you. How's that?
Thank you. Just a second. Okay. This morning I received a call from Bill Evinger, who informed me he's unable to be here today. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? What are you making that face at for?
They can hear you, they just can't.
What are you looking at me like that for? I'll put you down for 6 to 8 on Saturday, May 1st. And there are quite a few guys over at this table that are going to be working in ladies lingerie. Do you want to work? Okay. All right.
Wow.
We have collected quite a few things, and we need more, and we're desperate for help. I think some of you may have been kind of put off by trying to sign your name onto the computer when that sign-up sheet came out. Never fear, we are near, we will get you. I was told by our chairman this morning that if he didn't get extra people to sign up today, he was going to make calls, individual calls. So don't say you weren't warned. We have lots of things. We hope to make, do we hope we have a deadline?
Over 1,000 what we want to make.
It looks like as of this morning with your donation, and you have a car full of money, old money, right? And what did you bring in your donation today? You.
Oh, he brought in a whole bunch of stuff.
Okay, all right. I think we're gonna be okay. Bill says we're gonna be fine. Ron says we're gonna be fine.
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna be fine. If you haven't signed up, I've got the list.
We got the sign up right here. Basically, Friday, which is April 30th, 3 to 5 in the afternoon, just loading stuff up in the trailers. Then we'll be over at the park Saturday, 6 o'clock in the morning. So we need help 6 to 9, 9 to 12, and 12 to 3. Please sign up. We need all the help.
Ron?
Yes.
Ron, a question from Zoom. Is it possible to get some kind of flyer that we can share on our individual Facebook pages? You know, like we do with poinsettias.
Christine, you know how to do that.
No,
Christine?
no, I don't.
No, you don't. Out of all the people in this club, you are the best at doing that.
No, we have
Good-
someone
good
that does
idea,
our
Christine. Go
PR.
ahead.
Can they design a flyer
Do
that
we
we
have
can
an
share?
amen for that? All right. You had a great idea, Christine. You just got nominated. Sheriff, I think it's supposed to be Brian Barnett today. Is he here online? Or is Steve going to do it?
We had it negotiated yesterday.
Okay, it was negotiated. Pete's taking it.
I have to take it because nobody will step up. So here we are. I'm gonna take this with me
No, you're not.
for all these sheriff times. Hold on a second. Oh, guess what day it is today, Stuart? It's 4/20. Well, anybody that knows what that means doesn't have to pay. Anybody that doesn't know what that means, put $1 on the table. There you go. You're all a bunch of liars and you all know exactly what it means. Didn't I see you in pin conning yesterday? I'm just kidding. If you're over the age of 63, that's $1.
Everybody.
Because today in history, Michael Jordan scored 63 points in one game. So if you're over 60, it's $1. Am I the only person in the room under 63? Me and Rachel? Okay, there we
The real young.
go. I can't, I don't know. Phil, that's $1 just for talking. Danica Patrick won her first Indy race today in history in Japan, which is pretty interesting. And that reminds me of cars, which reminds me of garages, which reminds me to fine everybody $1 that didn't give anything to the garage sale yet. That includes you, Roger. Now, the funny part about Japan is that a woman won a race in Japan, but a Japanese man won the Masters a couple weeks ago. So anybody wearing green doesn't have to pay. Marty, put that $1 back. You're wearing green. Anybody not wearing green, it's $1. For the green jacket, for those of you that don't know that. Those are the same people that don't know about 420. Online, they know about 420. Oh, real quick, before we wrap it up, John Gaber is here, so we get to play our game. John, smartest guy in the room, where are you? Oh, there he is. Are you ready for the question? Great. Here's the question. All right. As you know, NASA launched a helicopter on Mars this week. The atmosphere is very thin, so I'm going to give you a multiple choice. If John answers the question correctly, it's $2 for everybody that's online and $1 for everybody in person. If he answers it wrong, it's $3 a pop. Everybody pays. So John, here we go. The atmospheric density on Mars is 1%, 5%, or 10% of the atmospheric density on Earth. $3 a piece, everybody. Drop and go. Is 1%. 1%. All right, that's pretty interesting. Everybody at Ethan's table, that's another $1 for Ethan explaining to us the golf outing schedule and what's going on. So as a member of the committee, this is kind of an internal fine for you, but it goes for everybody over there. So, okay, that's all for me. Who's next? Dennis.
Rotarian of the Week, Lars gave it to me last week, and the person I want to give it to is not here today, so we're going to move it to next week.
Remember an extra $5 just to.
I got that message. And being from Michigan, you know, Michigan schools, 5 and 5 is 10. I know that. Ohio has a problem. Tim Duncan.
Yes, sir.
There he is.
Online.
Go ahead, sir. Can you hear?
Yep, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
You guys hear him?
All right. Yep. How's that? Okay, good deal.
You can hear him all right? Hold on a second.
All right.
Speaker's on the bottom, right? Try it again.
I think so. Test 1, 2, 3. Everybody hear me there?
That's better.
All right, perfect. All right, good afternoon, Rotarians. Today, it is my pleasure to introduce Miss Lori Gosselin. She's the founder and CEO of Cali Ergo Community Building Corporation, a company she founded in 2019 with a mission to spread community consciousness around the globe. She has a master's degree in organizational management and has published 2 books, Sounding the Drum, Community Building in the Digital Age, and The Happy Place. She believes so strongly in the power of community building that she spent 3 years researching, dissecting, and writing about it. She leads workshops on the topic where she introduces community building and a very different style of leadership called community leadership. So to talk further about this very interesting topic, here is Lori Gosselin.
Thank you. Can I share my screen? I think I can, right?
Yes, you should be able to.
Okay. So I'm going to talk about community building to a group of people who understand community. Hopefully I can add another dimension to your understanding. So it's a fairly fast slideshow, and I'd ask that if you can write down a question or two, hopefully we have time for a Q&A after. Since COVID-19 struck, we've heard the word community more than ever before. When we think of community, we think of groups like these. But what if there is more to community than what can be defined by geographical boundaries and shared interests? What if something is missing from our definition of community? I'd like to share my perception of community, and I'll start by telling you a short but true story. One day I had to pick up a package at the house of an acquaintance. I drove up the boulevard, I pulled into the driveway, I walked up the path to the front door, and I rang the bell. She opened the door and welcomed me into a spacious, elegantly decorated foyer. When she left me to get the package, I peered around the corner and saw a room that could have been on the cover of a decorating magazine. It was beautiful, and it was neat and clean, and it was quiet. And as I stood there, this uncomfortable feeling came over me, that it felt as if no one actually lived in this house. It was a beautiful house, but it didn't feel like a home. Later that week, I went for the first time to visit a new friend. I drove up the road, I pulled into the driveway, I walked through the carport to the side door, and I rang the bell. She opened the door and welcomed me into her kitchen, where I could see she'd been baking. I could smell the cake she'd just taken from the oven that was cooling on a wooden rack. I could see flour and bowls and utensils across the countertop and in the sink. Through the window over the sink, I could see trees in the backyard and hear birds at the feeder. The entire kitchen was flooded with light and with warmth, and I knew this wasn't just a house, it was a home. Community is home. It's a place where we belong and we feel it. It's a place where we are seen and heard and understood and accepted for exactly who we are. It's a place where you're important to the people there, just because you're there. Everybody needs that place in their lives. Now, it's understandable that there's confusion about the word community. Our perception of community was formed in childhood by what we saw of the community of the past, the stories our grandparents told us, what we saw in old TV shows and movies, what we read in books. But community has been evolving. It's been keeping pace with human evolution, keeping pace with our needs. For instance, for our cave-dwelling ancestors, community meant survival. You needed to be a part of a community then. For the early settlers to North America, community meant support. So if your house or your barn burned down, people would come together and they would help you. And for the immigrants who landed on the shores of North America at the beginning of the last century, community meant protection in an alien land. I used to think I was born at the wrong time. In the past, there was community in the world. I'd think of households where 3 generations lived under one roof. The older people supported the younger people in child-rearing, household, and farm chores. The younger people would spend time with the older people. There was always someone at home for the children. But then I wondered if I hadn't been looking at the community of the past through rose-tinted lens. Because when I leaned in and listened, I heard things like, "Suck it up, Buttercup. It's not the end of the world. Boys don't cry. Men don't cry. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Children are to be seen and not heard. And the world doesn't owe you a living." The community of the past was tough. It had to be. Those were tough times. The community of the past was a physical community. It was all about survival. Now, community today is still about survival, only in a different way. Let me ask you something. Have you ever had that sensation of feeling alone in a crowd? Have you ever been at a social gathering or family party or even at a work meeting and thought, it's like no one here even knows me? If you have, you're not alone. A 2018 article in the New York Times said that 13% of Americans feel no one knows them at all. In his book, Them, author Ben Sass said that by the middle of the last decade, 25% of Americans felt they had no one to talk to about the things that mattered. And a 2018 New Cigna study on loneliness found that 50% of Americans sometimes or always feel alone. We now have a loneliness epidemic considered more harmful to human health than cancer, heart disease, smoking, or obesity. Now, what are we to do about that? Could we have a loneliness epidemic if we had more community in the world? No, this is what we do about that. We build community in all the places we dwell. Now, you might notice that I added an 8th item to the list. Do we need to build community at work? Do we need community at work? Do we need dessert with a meal? It's not about need. It's about making the experience that much more pleasant. Besides, there are some serious reasons we do need to build community in the workplace. When there is community in the workplace, the people want to stay there. People are happy there, and mental health is supported there. So yes, the community of the past was tough. It was a physical community. But today, we are not concerned about saber-toothed tigers or hostile environments. Today, our struggles are with anxiety, depression, addiction, loneliness, and despair. Our struggles are no longer physical, they're emotional. So if we want to talk about community building, we need to zero in. What exactly does it look like? How do its members act? And how does it feel to be a part of a community? I'll answer these questions by quickly going over the 7 pillars or the 7 characteristics of a community. A community is a group of people who are committed to one another and to the group itself. You probably can relate to this through your Rotary Club. This commitment lays the foundation for community building, and it becomes the glue that helps to keep the group together. This is another word we're hearing a lot today. When I say a community is inclusive, I don't just mean that it is inclusive of all people. I mean that it is inclusive of all diversity, and not just ethnic and religious diversity, but cognitive diversity. Are different ideas entertained here? Physical diversity, intellectual diversity. How many degrees do I need to have before my voice is heard here? Economic diversity, diversity of life experience, of sexual orientation, emotional diversity. Is my anger welcome here? What if I'm feeling sad today? Do I need to hide that? Now, if you have a place that is committed and inclusive to that degree, you have a safe space where it's perfectly okay to be exactly who you are. And with those 3 characteristics, you have a place that is very supportive. So if you belong to a community of 20 people, that means there are 19 people in the world who have your back in a meaningful way. This characteristic most distinguishes a community from all other groups, and this is the shape of the leadership. It's not a pyramid with people in power at the top and everyone else beneath them. It's more like a circle of people around a campfire where everyone's gifts and talents and experience can come to the table. In a true community, there's no power struggle because you don't have to struggle for what you already have. And with the 5 characteristics I've just described, with commitment and inclusivity and authenticity and support and the shared leadership, imagine how amazing the communication is going to be. And with that caliber of communication, how effective will the collaboration be? Finally, and this is my favorite reason for building community, is the camaraderie that you enjoy with a group of people who've gone through the community building process together. So here are the 7 pillars again. Most of us at some time or other have been a part of a group that enjoyed 3 or 4, or maybe 5 of these characteristics. But imagine how it feels to be a part of a group that enjoys all 7. So how do groups become communities? There are 3 ways that groups of people evolve into community. First way is organically. This is when a group of people meet on a regular basis, say the Rotary Club that meets once a week, or a knitting or a book club that meets every month. Over time, these groups can naturally evolve into community, but they might get stuck. There are snags that they can run into, which you'll see. And also, organic community building can take a lot of time. Now, this way of growing into community takes almost no time at all. And that's a spontaneous community that happens when there is a crisis. We've probably all experienced this, but at least we've seen what was on the news when the cathedral at Notre Dame was burning, and strangers were linking arms with strangers, singing and crying and praying together. During a crisis, the feeling of closeness and connection is so strong that often after the crisis has abated, people miss that. But we don't need a crisis in order to enjoy that caliber of connection. We can build community consciously with intention, and this is what I teach people how to do. And there is a process. This was first outlined for me by Scott Peck, who wrote The Different Drum, Community Making and Peace, which was published over 30 years ago. He outlined 4 stages on the community building path. Stage 1 is pseudo-community. We've all experienced this. When a group of people come together for the first time, they are naturally in pseudo-community. This is marked by the way they act towards one another. They're friendly, they're kind, welcoming. When people first come together, it's natural, it's human nature to be this way because you want to be liked, you want to belong. But after a time, if the people are together long enough, someone is bound to say, wait a minute, I'm not so happy with the way things are going, or I have an issue with you, or I have an issue with that. And when someone has the courage to be authentic, they can shift the group into stage 2, chaos. Now, chaos is a stage of crisis. It's a stage of confrontation. We don't like that. When a group finds itself in chaos, they will try to get out. One way is to backpedal into pseudo-community. Just pretend that everything's fine. But that is no longer satisfying. It's like the genie's out of the bottle by now. Another thing that will happen when a group comes into chaos is that members will quit. Well, this isn't what I signed up for. Why am I wasting my time here? Sometimes the entire group can break apart. There is another way out of chaos. And when at least one person in the group is familiar with this process, they'll recognize what is happening. You see, chaos is not something having gone wrong. Chaos represents forward motion, the evolution of the group towards community. And this person who is familiar with the process can point it out to the group and say, guys, we're in chaos. And when you know you're in chaos, you know what you have to do. And that's to step forward into stage 3, emptiness. Well, this doesn't look like a whole lot much more fun. It looks like a stage of surrender, and it is. In emptiness, we need to drop. We need to empty out of ourselves our judgments, our need to control. Anything that's bothering us that came up in chaos, we need to examine it. It's an inside job, but the entire group has to pause and go into emptiness together. And if the group can pause long enough and stay in emptiness, then they can evolve into community. Now, right about now, I imagine someone is wondering, is she just talking about team building? No. Community building is very different from team building. I'll go over 3 ways that they're different. First is in participation. Team building is usually pretty mandatory. Manager comes out and says, guys, we're doing team building today. But community building must be voluntary. You have to want to be there because you'll need to commit to a process that, as we've seen, isn't always easy. Second difference is in the goals. Team building is a series of exercises designed to help the members of the group work together better. It's about strategy. Community building is a process that facilitates the growth of relationships among the members of a group. It's about culture. And I'm sure you're all familiar with what Peter Drucker said about culture. Final difference I'll cover, and we're coming to the end, is the outcomes. So the group goes away to do team building exercises for an afternoon or a day or a weekend. They develop some camaraderie, but when they get back to work, it's pretty much business as usual. But when a group goes through a community building process together, it transforms the dynamics of the group. Here are some of the other outcomes. So how is this possible? It's possible because community building is relationship building. And relationships form the foundation of any collaboration. If we neglect this foundation, all the problems we're going to have down the road are going to lead us right back to it. As relationship building, Community building makes the unfamiliar familiar. And imagine the power in making the unfamiliar familiar, in mitigating these issues that we face today. Essentially, community building makes everyone us. Now, does this mean it makes everyone the same? No, this is not a depiction of a community. This is. So I want to thank you for listening. I'm going to take your questions in a second, but I want to put this slide up in case you want to take a picture or a screenshot of this so you have my contact info. Also, I wanted to show you the cover of my book. I named it Sounding the Drum in honor of Scott Peck, whose work in the different drum I sought to bring forward into the digital age. And it's available on Amazon in Kindle and paper format. So are we okay to stop the share? Okay. So I hope there are some questions.
Any questions?
As you build a culture. As you build a culture, team building could be a good subset to start moving in the direction of a culture. Do you agree?
Yes and no. It's when you're doing community building, it's almost like you're on a different road. It's not like you can start through team building and then build community, although you can, but it's really such a different process. So how do I explain this? I just had a thought go right out of my head. It's like team building is the evolution. Sorry, community building is the evolution of team building, but it doesn't actually come from it. It's like they're going in two different directions. But that being said, every community is also a team, but not every team is a community. So you see the difference in that way? The exercises we do to build community are completely different from team building exercises. Does that answer your question?
He said you answered the question. He doesn't agree, but you answered the question.
Okay, that's great.
Any other questions online?
I have a question. I was writing it, but I'm afraid you'll push it away before I get done.
Oh.
Can you have a community made up of people who have very, very different opinions and strong ones?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if we're going to have a community building experience, we want that. We want a lot of different ideas and thoughts to come together. Because, I mean, imagine a community with a whole bunch of people who think and feel exactly the way you feel on every level. It's really kind of boring. We're not going to grow. We're not going to learn anything from that.
Lost the picture there for a second. Any other questions? Lori, thank you for an interesting meeting. That was awesome. Before we leave, Tom Nouveau wanted me to mention the Rochester Rotary Club Spring Fling to benefit the Rotary International Foundation. He says it's time to party. May 19th, the Rochester Rotary Club will hold its first social event of the year. The event will be our first opportunity to get together in an informal setting. Funds raised will be used to support the Rotary Foundation. May 19th, Wednesday, 6 to 8:30 at the Rochester Community House. There'll be an outside tent in the rear of the building. The restrooms will be available inside. Tickets are $5 a person. They're only selling 75 tickets. And tickets can be sold or bought online in upcoming Rotary meetings. They'll have hors d'oeuvres and beverages will be available for purchase. Corsages will be available to purchase for the event to honor significant other. And COVID protocols will be observed. Any other questions or comments before we close out the meeting?